All right, hello everyone, good afternoon. We are so excited to welcome you all to what I am sure will be a stimulating discussion on the future of the US-Turkey relationship, featuring our distinguished guests, Congressman Joe Wilson and Deputy Berat ÇONKAR. Before we get started, I just wanted to touch on a few housekeeping items, particularly for the audience. This event is being recorded and will be published on the Turkish Heritage Organization's YouTube page and website. I mentioned this earlier, but following this session, you can visit www.turkheritage.org for the full summary and learn about future events, which again, I very much encourage you all to do. Hopefully we will have enough time for questions from the audience, so please don't hesitate to submit your questions in the Q&A feature and not the chat. If you do end up putting anything in the chat, we might end up missing it, and we definitely want to get to all of your questions. So please, once again, just make sure you're using the Q&A feature for all of those communications. For those of us joining today who are unfamiliar with the Turkish Heritage Organization, THO is a non-partisan nonprofit founded in 2015 that serves to further the dialogue surrounding the US-Turkey relationship and the NATO alliance. So my name is Megan Dashkin, and I will be serving as the moderator for today's panel. I'm a security administrator at the National Academy of Sciences, a student of applied intelligence at Georgetown University, and a fellow here at THO. My focus is in national security and foreign policy, and so I am producing and co-hosting a podcast on Turkish politics and the US-Turkey relationship for THO and the Mina Swana-focused organization for educational and cultural advancement, El Fuzeyek. So it is with great pleasure and honor to be here with all of you today and with our distinguished guests, Congressman Joe Wilson and Deputy Berat ÇONKAR. Starting off with a little bit about both of our speakers, Deputy ÇONKAR served as advisor to the Prime Minister of Turkey on international political and economic affairs between 2007 and 2009. He then served as a foreign affairs advisor to the Speaker of the Grand National Assembly of Turkey between 2009 and 2011. He was elected as member of parliament, and then he served as a member of the Foreign Affairs Committee and as chairman of Foreign Affairs Committee in the Grand National Assembly of Turkey. He was also a member of the NATO Parliamentary Assembly Turkish delegation between 2011 and 2015. And he assumed co-chairmanship of the Turkish-Russian Civic Forum in 2014. Currently, he is co-chairman of the Turkey-EU Joint Parliamentary Committee and a member of the Committee on European Union Harmonization at the Grand National Assembly of Turkey. He also serves as a member of political committee at NATO Parliamentary Assembly Turkish delegation and has served as vice chairman of Foreign Affairs Division at AK Party headquarters from 2011 to 2016. So welcome, Deputy. Congressman Wilson is an attorney serving as the U.S. representative for South Carolina's 2nd Congressional District, having served since 2001. He served on the Committee on Armed Services and is chairman of the Subcommittee on Military Personnel, the Subcommittee on Strategic Forces, and as a member of the Committee on Foreign Affairs, he served on the Subcommittee on Europe and Subcommittee on the Middle East and South Asia. He currently serves as co-chair of the Turkish Caucus. So welcome to both of our speakers. I thank you so much for joining us today. Congressman Wilson, are you on the line? That's totally fine. All right, well, we are going to turn to you, Deputy ÇONKAR. Again, we are so honored to be hosting you today. Just while we allow the votes to close out for Congressman Wilson to speak, we can turn our questions first to you. What would you say your role is in supporting the Transatlantic Alliance?
First of all, I would like to thank Turkish Heritage Organization and Congressman Wilson for this meeting. I think it is done in a very important time for Turkish-US relations. It's a very critical time as far as I see. As you know, Turkey and the United States are partners in NATO for more than 70 years. And today, we are in a critical juncture in our relationship. So Turkey's position inside NATO has always been very critical. As far as the Cold War is concerned, Turkey has been one of the main contributors to NATO's security, and in the eastern flank, the burden that Turkey has taken has been very instrumental in the NATO alliance. However, when we come to today, we are seeing a very different set of challenges in front of NATO, both internally and externally. We have very different challenges, especially when we look at the developments, especially inside NATO. We are seeing that there is a growing problem of cohesion inside NATO, and this problem mainly is derived from some issues in the bilateral relationships of the countries, the member countries. When we look at the Turkey-US relationship, which has deteriorated in the last couple of years, there are certain issues, there are certain problems which are basically creating cracks inside NATO. To be more specific, for example, the fight against terrorism issue, Turkey's rightful concerns in fighting against PKK and its Syrian branch YPG, unfortunately, is taken very lightly by other allies. And this is creating an important crack inside our alliance. However, Turkey's situation requires solidarity and support from its allies in a critical time where our national security is under threat by these organizations. So I think that it is very important to focus and understand the real security challenges for us, for Turkey, and to make this empathy is very important to understand the underlying causes of the current difficulties. So I think as a start, I would like to basically make this analysis very clearly. Turkey's sensitivities must be understood well, and with the new administration coming in the United States, with the experience of the President-elect Biden in foreign affairs, I believe that there is a chance for a new dynamics to reset and to mend the relationship so that we can really focus on many important issues that we need to work on for regional and global security.
And Deputy ÇONKAR, if you could just take another question really quickly. What do you think that the incoming Biden administration should really tackle first in order to assist with this NATO cohesion?
As I said, specifically, the US position on the terrorist organizations that Turkey is fighting against. Initially, it is PKK and its Syrian branch, YPG, PYD. It's an existential national security threat of NATO ally Turkey. This is very clear. This is not a partisan command. This is not a command only by Justice and Development Party. This is widely shared in the Turkish parliament, and the Turkish public opinion is very clear about we deserve to get the full support of the United States administration as our ally of more than 70 years to help us fight against this terrorist organization who has caused immense damage to Turkey and still causing huge damage to Turkey. So I think this is the first initial issue, and the second one is, of course, the Fethullahist terrorist organization, the FETÖ, which is unfortunately finding a safe haven right now in some European countries and unfortunately in the United States. This is another issue that the Turkish public opinion is very, very clear about, and any change in the Turkish government or administration will not change this fact. This is a structural issue. This is an existential issue. This organization shouldn't be given safe haven and freedom to operate in our ally United States territories. So I believe if we can come to a certain position, understanding on these two important national security questions of Turkey, I believe that we can overcome all the other issues quite easily.
Thank you so much, Deputy ÇONKAR.
Sure.
Congressman Wilson, I see that you're on the line. If you don't mind turning on your video and unmuting yourselves, just so that we can make sure that you are there with us.
Yes.
Perfect. Thank you so much. So I'm going to turn this question to you, Congressman. What do you think will be the biggest priorities needed from the Transatlantic Alliance moving forward?
I'm just ever hopeful, and first of all, the Transatlantic Alliance is recognized by Republicans and Democrats as critical to our security. It's critical to economic success and progress worldwide, and then the proven success of the NATO experience, the proven success of working together, and hey. I think of, we're approaching the 100th anniversary of democracy in Turkey, 2023. And so I think of the relationships that we have, and then the transformations that we've seen in the last 30 years. I was an election observer in Bulgaria on June 10, 1990. And to see that country transform from a totalitarian state, a member of the Warsaw Pact, a satellite of the Soviet Union, to become such a valued ally, the next door neighbor of Turkey, how reassuring that has to be. And who would have ever imagined that this could occur so quickly? So I'm quite an optimist.
Thank you so much, Congressman. I'm going to push you a little bit more just in our second question. How do you think the bilateral relationship and transatlantic alliances can be strengthened, particularly with the difficulties the relationship is experiencing on Capitol Hill?
Well, ultimately, again, it's so mutually beneficial that we have the strongest relationship, and so we appreciate, and it's very basic in my home state. We really appreciate not just the mutual benefit of strong national security, but investments. The largest Michelin investment in the world is in the district that I represent from France. The largest BMW investment in the world is in my home state of South Carolina. And so over and over again, we have how important it is, the relationship, and and so it's not just national security and mutual national security, but working together to increase our economic cooperation, produces jobs around the world, but particularly it's just so mutually beneficial.
That is great. Now, turning back to you, Deputy ÇONKAR, how would you say NATO can succeed in achieving its global and regional security objectives, meeting the 21st century needs?
Actually, as I have mentioned, right now there is a challenge for NATO. The greatest challenge right now is coming from the internal issues, I would say, internal cohesion or solidarity issues. Because if we cannot sort out this problem inside NATO, the solidarity and cohesion of the alliance, this is going to affect also NATO's adversaries' look towards NATO. because there are some attempts to create cracks inside the NATO alliance. So I believe that the greatest challenge is to basically recreate the spirit of cohesion and solidarity inside the alliance. For example, unfortunately, in the last foreign ministers meeting in NATO, unfortunately, Secretary Pompeo had made some accusations to Turkey, and our foreign minister had to respond. And unfortunately, this also has been reflected in the media in different ways. It is leaked to the media. However, when we look at the internal causes of this kind of problems inside NATO, we see the main issue is Turkey's national security priorities, which are very just and rightful, are not recognized enough by some of our allies. Actually, NATO has its strength. It takes its strength from its internal cohesion, consensus building, and its solidarity. And this has made NATO the most successful alliance in the history. So I believe that if we can overcome this internal issue, then we will be able to tackle all very complex issues right now we are facing in the world. If we look at the external challenges that we need to deal with, we are seeing challenges posed by Russia and China, standing up against all forms of terrorism without discriminating, between terrorist groups. There is, hybrid warfare, cyber security, cyber attacks, pandemics, and as you know, the health issues, which is a all global problem right now, climate change, and also emerging and disruptive technologies, artificial intelligence. These are among important issues that we consider on the agenda of NATO, that as allies we need to work together on these issues. And as Turkey, we are in a position to contribute in all of these topics, in all of these critical issues. Turkey has a lot to offer. And by the way, I just would like to also mention that Turkey and the United States have been one of the two most important pillars of NATO. In NATO operations until now, Turkey, in a very critical strategic geopolitical situation, together with the United States, has managed a lot. Maybe we are not focusing this positive history right now because of the other conflict that we are going through, but we can remember Korea, Afghanistan, Iraq, Bosnia, Balkans, Somalia. Today against Daesh in Syria, Turkey has acted together with the United States fighting against terrorism. So these issues that are very critical for all of our security and prosperity are very important for the United States, for Turkey, and for NATO. We have a lot of commonalities, actually, common issues that we can work on. However, the most important thing is that we need to get rid of this unnecessary problem, which is caused by some of our allies' wrong assessment about how Turkey receives threats from the terrorist organizations. If we can get over this problem, I think that we will have a bright future inside NATO, re-establishing this cohesion and tackling the issues together with the United States.
And Mr. Chairman, I believe that you've done an excellent job of citing so many different issues where, again, the word that the term I use is mutually beneficial. Every single one that you mentioned, it's mutually beneficial that we work together. And then we've done it. And I appreciate you, because I always do it, go back to Korea. And if anybody ever wonders about the relationship of Turkey and the United States, all you have to do is go to the mall of the United States Capitol, the beautiful green space between the Washington Monument and the U.S. Capitol building, and the Korean War Memorial right there. And the first country that you see cited as a ally of the United States in the Korean War, indeed, is Turkey. And so it's always a reminder to me, going back to 1950-51, how important Turkey has been in our relationship. But every issue that you mentioned, it's mutually beneficial to the United States, to the American people, to the people of Turkey, that we work together, and whatever differences there are, that we have them overcome.
Thank you so much, Congressman Wilson. It's so great to have you visually here in our meeting. Thank you so much for joining us. We spoke a little bit about this earlier in our discussion, but I wanted to give you the opportunity to address this as well. Do you think the change in administration will really impact the NATO alliance? And will the role of the bilateral relationship change in any way because of that change in administration?
I actually believe what has been a misperception, that the Trump administration is actually very supportive of NATO. What was being questioned is the contribution levels of its members to the 2% level, and that was not meant as being critical of the alliance itself. It was that everybody should, quote, be doing their part. And so with a new administration coming in, maybe there won't be the complexity of that particular issue, but the importance of NATO is just so critical. It's been, as cited, the most successful security development and alliance in the history of the world. Hey, it was what put in place the ability for Central and Eastern Europe now to be free and independent and democratic, and now members of NATO. Who would ever imagine, very valued members of NATO? And then a year ago, I had the opportunity to visit in Poland. And who would ever imagine? And my daughter-in-law is Polish-American, so I have a very high interest in that country. But to see the success of Poland, to see the importance now of NATO troops being in Poland, and the significance of that, and that is, it's not meant to be provocative to the Russian Federation, but it is to be reassuring to the people of Poland, and it has been, and equally the success of NATO troops to be in the Baltic republics, how important that is to maintain the security for the people of the Baltic republics, Estonia, Latvia, and Lithuania. And what a message, again, to provocateurs in the Russian Federation that may want to see further incursions, as has occurred in Moldova, and Georgia, and Ukraine. And so NATO proves itself every day as being very, very important. And I've particularly seen it this past year.
Thank you, Congressman. Before we jump into the next question, I just want to remind our audience to please use the Q&A chat. We definitely hope to have time for audience questions. So if you have anything that you want answered by both of our esteemed guests, please use the Q&A chat for that. Now I'm going to turn to you, Deputy ÇONKAR. What do you think we can do together to really reestablish trust between the US and Turkey, and particularly to overcome the conflicting issues between the two countries?
Thank you very much for this question. Actually, I think that it is very important for the Congress and the Turkish Parliament to be involved in better understanding the current issues and resolving these issues. I certainly believe that we need to develop our relations, interparliamentary relations, further, because we are the representatives of our people. Turkey is basically a democracy, one of the, I think, earliest democracies since 1876, we have a parliament, even though it was there was a monarch together with parliament. We have a very old democratic tradition since 1876, and with the Turkish Republic in 1920, the Turkish parliament has basically conducted the independence war and basically re-established the country with the Turkish Republic. So the Turkey's democracy tradition is very strong. So I believe that we need to develop further our ties with the US Congress, because what I see is that unfortunately there are certain negative factors or lobbies, like, you know, the lobby of the PKK or YPG or FETÖ. These kind of actors are basically creating a negative atmosphere and basically making the picture very blurry about Turkey. Actually, when we speak with the congressmen or the senators, I think we can understand each other much better, because we have a lot of commonalities, common things, common issues that we can solve together, discuss together if we join our hands together. So I think that the relationship between the parliaments is very important. Of course, the new administration, as I mentioned before, President-elect Biden is an experienced politician, also has experience in foreign affairs in the Senate, and also as the vice president, he conducted many important files, and he knows Turkey and the importance of Turkey for Central Asia, Caucasus, the Balkans, the Africa, and the Middle East. Turkey is a very critical geopolitical actor, and Mr. Biden and his team, I think, is very aware of what Turkey represents. So I believe that by establishing our dialogue, diplomatic relations, revitalizing our diplomatic relations, I think that we can tackle the issues together. And one last thing I would like to add, for example, between Turkey and Russia, since we are close neighbors, in terms of proximity, 2 hours flight is from Ankara to Moscow. And our presidents have established a high-level cooperation committee during the time of earlier President Medvedev. And under that committee, there is like Turkish-Russian Civic Forum, which mainly deals with people-to-people relations, like education, sports, tourism, culture, business activities, and for example, even issues like relations between the religious even institutions. These kind of committees are working for making, for bringing two countries' population to know better, to know each other better. This forum is helping the relationship between Turkey and Russia, and it is also basically helping to even diffuse some problems. Unfortunately, we do not have a similar structure with the United States, even though we have NATO allies, very strategic allies, for more than 70 years. So I think that we may develop a mechanism like this between Turkey and the United States, so that we may bring some depth to our relationship in terms of trade, you know, economic activities, in terms of history, in terms of, you know, as I said, cultural and, you know, historical issues even. We may produce together projects. So these kind of steps, I think, would help better our relationship and overcome the problems.
And indeed, Deputy, as we reorganize Congress, one of the first things we'll be doing, obviously, is reorganizing the Turkish caucus in Congress. And we look forward to working with our fellow parliamentarians. And then I've always been a strong supporter, too, of the AmCham, the American Chamber, and how that can be so effective in promoting economic relationships between our countries. And so over and over again, I want to revitalize that what we have. And then I'm somewhat envious when you talk about the Russian Federation and war. We have so much more in common. And with the people of Turkey and the Turkish Republic and the history. And thank you for letting me know about going back to 1876. That's exciting because I was so focused on 1923 that hey, you've just brought me up to date. And no, hey, just what a, and hey, I'm so happy too. You cited something else that the people of Turkey should be so proud, and that is their influence in Central Asia. Who would ever imagine how significant that influence is, how positive that influence is with the new republics that now exist there in Central Asia, and then indeed your cultural success and influence in the Balkans. And then to see the most recent peace agreements between Serbia and Kosovo, who would ever imagine? And how there are actually good things occurring. And one of my friends in Congress here is Congresswoman Sheila Jackson Lee. She points out good news has no feet and bad news has wings. And so we need to focus on so many of the good items that are occurring and build on those. And in the coming year, I look forward to working with you in any way that I can.
Thank you very much, Congressman Wilson. I just wanted to jump in here because you said something very important. We have a lot more common background. Look at my background, for example. I lived in the United States for 7 years.
In Miami. Okay, hey, yeah, you were in a very extraordinary place. How could
yes,
you
I
leave?
was.
Okay,
yes, Miami Hurricanes is our, football team, for example. So I would say for example, daughter was born in the United States. She has dual citizenship and she will be voting for the US president in the next election.
Yes,
so there are a lot of families like this inside Turkey. There are a lot of students right now taking their bachelor's or master's or PhDs or working as professionals in the United States. We have a huge community, a Turkish community. And as you said, language-wise, a lot of people, the young people especially, speak fluent English and were open to the American culture. So I think that we have a big opportunity in front of us, but we need to, eliminate those negative, forces which are trying to create, these black atmosphere and trying to create this negative atmosphere on the Turkish-US relations.
And I need to be reminded of this, but the Turkish diaspora in America has been so successful. And I know that heritage and with family in Izmir. And so over and over again, the relationships and with your having worked in Florida, and which is just not uncommon at all. And so we have so much to build on, and I'm just gonna be very repetitious. It's mutually beneficial.
Sure.
Thank you so much, both of you, for all of your insights. Congressman, I just want to give you one last question. It's a doozy, so get ready. With the recent announcement of the final version of the annual defense policy bill, it was noted that it included mandates that the US president must implement CAA-TSA sanctions for Turkey's acquisition of the S-400 air missile defense system. What would you say is the likelihood it will pass and be incorporated once taken up in the chambers this coming week? And is there a possibility of a presidential veto?
Well, it could come up as soon as tomorrow. And so I need to look up specifically what the status is. And so let me, in fact, the National Defense Authorization Act is supposed to come up tomorrow afternoon. And so whatever the provisions are, but there was, and I want to be candid, there was disappointment at the missile defense system issue. And we certainly had hoped that it would work out differently, but the actual wording of the legislation, I need to look up, but it does, it's a must-pass legislation in Congress, and it comes up very likely tomorrow afternoon. But it will not be vetoed.
Yes, on this issue, I just understand the congressman's concern about the S-400s, but I also would like to make sure that Turkey is as careful as the United States in terms of protecting the security of the NATO assets,
Yes,
including the F-35s. And
yes.
we are ready to establish a committee inside NATO just to make sure the security of the systems which are not going to be connected to the NATO systems. They are going to be a standalone system, and we had to make this purchase because we were not able to purchase this from our allies with a 10-year process, very open and transparent process. Unfortunately, it did not work out because of some political blockages in the US Congress and in the administration. We were not able to procure the Patriot systems or other systems from our NATO allies. But as the congressman and the US administration knows very well, Turkey was under great security threat from Syria and from the region, so that that purchase had to be made based on those conditions. And we can make sure that these S-400 systems will not pose any threat to F-35s or any other NATO systems. As you know, we are together in the missile defense system. We are hosting the radars in Malatya, Kurecik, and we are part of the missile defense in NATO, and we are basically implementing whatever necessary in our NATO operations and NATO missions. So the Turkey is very sensitive about its responsibilities, the NATO responsibilities it has, and I can make sure that this will continue this way. However, if the sanctions really goes through, I am afraid that that may be a game changer, because I think that among NATO allies, sanctions, even the pronouncement of these kind of sanctions is may create very disturbing conditions and may affect the Turkish-American bilateral relationship in a negative way, when Turkey and the United States really needs each other very much in the current global conditions.
Well, we need each other, but gosh, the mutual success we've had around the world and working together. And I had two of my sons serve, one a doctor, one a field engineer with Turkish troops in Iraq. I had another son serve as an engineer with Turkish troops in Afghanistan. And so I've seen it firsthand, the relationship that we have, and we need to build on it. And I'm delighted to hear there's a committee to provide for the, particularly the IP technology to be secure. And I'm just confident we'll be able to work through these issues, because it's just been the relationship of Turkey and the United States that's been so beneficial for now a century and a half.
Yes.
Thank you both so much for those answers. We're now going to turn to audience questions. Some of you wrote in the Q&A feature, some of you emailed them in. Just a big thank you to our audience and everyone who has asked a question. So first, we're going to turn to you, Congressman Wilson. The idea of burden sharing and cost sharing within NATO has really been something that's been a complaint of many administrations long before President Trump. So while the incoming new administration will no doubt focus on the alliance, what do you think will be done to ensure more encouraged engagement from European partners?
Well, I believe that it was misunderstood when was that not all members of NATO were participating at the level that they economically could and should for their security. And so, but this really will be a bipartisan issue, and I see that the efforts, no matter who the president is, there will be the effort to promote within NATO the participation at the 2% level but here I go again. The word is mutually beneficial. It's mutually beneficial for all of the countries of NATO to be fully participating at the level that they can, so that we have the what has been a success story since 1949, and that is of maintaining the longest period of peace and prosperity in Europe in history.
Thank you so much. And once again, we are pulling from audience questions. Again, Congressman, you play an important role as both the co-chair of the Turkish caucus and the Bulgaria caucus. So Bulgaria has a large Turkish minority as well as a Macedonian minority. Bulgaria recently blocked Macedonia's EU membership because of the Macedonian minority within Bulgaria. Do you envision a problem for Turkey's EU membership over the Turkish minority in Bulgaria in the future? And can you apply pressure to Bulgaria to put aside these issues?
Well, actually, I'm going to show my age. I remember when the Turkish minority was fully persecuted under the Taro-Zukov dictatorship and the communist dictatorship. And one of the attributes of the modern democracy, which now is Bulgaria, has been participation by the Turkish minority. And so please bring all this to my attention. I'll be happy a Macedonian too, because to see the evolution of Bulgaria from a totalitarian state to a fully representative democracy with a economic system that is beneficial to hopefully all citizens, I'd be happy to be promoting that, and to see the progress that has been made, and we'll build on that.
Thank you so much. This last question is for Deputy ÇONKAR. With instances in the region with NATO allies at odds, what will be done specifically to encourage more involvement from NATO with regards to Syria and Libya?
As you know, in these issues in Syria and Libya, NATO is staying a little neutral, because they want to see first the involvement from the United States. If the United States shows its leadership inside NATO, then the NATO mechanism really starts to function. So I think the United States look at this region, especially how to deal with the Syrian problem and what's happening in Libya is very important. If the United States, together with Turkey, can come up with some common perspectives as far as handling the issue in Syria as well as in Libya, and also in the Eastern Mediterranean, in Cyprus as well. We have a lot of things that we can do together if the United States comes into the game in a constructive manner with the US Congress's support and the new President-elect Biden's administration. There is a huge opportunity to really solve the problem for stability and security and prosperity of this region, which will benefit both Turkey and the United States. And I think here, Turkey's experience is very important, because we have been involved in Libya, trying to support a legitimate government. Basically, we have provided the ground for political settlement in Libya, and also in Syria. Turkey has been very influential and effective in protecting millions of civilians in Idlib and in the areas under the Daesh control. Turkey has fought chest to chest with the Daesh terrorists and clear an important area. Almost 500,000 migrants now return back to Syria because of the situation that evolved after Turkey has cleared these areas from terrorism. And if we can get the support of our allies, especially the United States, in bringing a solution to the Syrian conflict, I think we have all the means to implement this on the ground. The only thing is that Turkey and the United States should overcome those issues and work together in the region again.
And Congressman, if you would like to respond to that very quickly.
Well, hey, we're in, Mr. Deputy, we're in quite agreement, and I look forward to suggestions on how we can work together, because it's so critical. And I'm delighted to hear about the return of 500,000 persons. That's an achievement, and the people of Turkey should be given positive recognition that this could even occur. That's startling, and then the challenges in Libya got to be addressed. Again, the people of that country are in such dire straits, and so I look forward to working with you and getting your input on how we can be working together.
Well, unfortunately, we have run out of time, although I wish we could continue this conversation. A quick reminder to visit www.turkheritage.org for the full summary and recording. The website also features upcoming events, including a webinar this Thursday featuring the President of the UN General Assembly. So to Congressman Wilson and Deputy Çonkar, thank you again so much for your time. We sincerely appreciate it. Also, thank you to everyone who joined in today. And that concludes our webinar. So thank you, and take care.
And
Thank you very much, Megan.
Thank you,
Mr. Joe Wilson. Thank you.
My honor. Look forward to being with you in person.
Nice to see you. Hope to see you.
You're here.
For sure.